I'm going to start by reading from Isaiah chapter 55, and I'm going to read the first 5 verses. Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Hear, that your soul may live. And I will make with you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast, sure love for David. Behold, I made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander for the peoples. Behold, you shall call a nation that you do not know, and a nation that did not know you shall run to you, because of the Lord your God, and the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. We're in an art gallery, and in front of us is a huge painting. It's a striking image. It's full of colour and energy, and it has a wonderful attention to detail. And as with all works of art, it's really speaking to us. And the reason that it's speaking to us is because it's speaking about us. But what is it saying? Well, fortunately, the artist is standing right next to us, and his name is Isaiah. And he tells us that the title of the work that we're looking at is an invitation. Now, most of the picture is taken up with a huge banquet. I mean, this is a really sumptuous spread, and its opulence is represented by 3 rivers flowing through the banqueting hall. One river is of water, symbolizing fruitfulness. Another is of milk, symbolizing an abundance. And the third river is a river of wine, which speaks to us about joy and overflowing joy. The people in this picture, though, well, they're not exactly what you might expect them to be. They're not the wealthy and the powerful, those kinds of people that you'd expect to find in a banqueting hall. From their clothes, you can see that they're ordinary people like you and people like me. And among them, there are those also who get overlooked, those who get marginalized. None of them have special passes to the places of power. But they're the ones tucking into this rich food. And from the faces of the banqueters, we can clearly see that this feasting hall is really a place of plenty. It's a place where joy flows freely, a place where everyone flourishes and the good things that life has to offer are freely available. So how come they're there? How come these ordinary people are the ones who find themselves in this banquet? Well, the artist, Isaiah, who's standing next to us, tells us that the reason they are there is because they were invited and they listened to the invitation. Beyond the banqueting table and its burden of fine food, we see a window. And as we look very carefully through the window to the outside world, what we see is a crowd of people working really, really hard. They're slogging their hearts out, straining every muscle, squeezing every second out of every day, just as they squeeze every ounce of energy that's in their blood. Why? In order to buy things, in order to achieve things, in order to be someone. But we can see as well from their faces that none of what they achieve, none of what they afford to buy through their hard work and all their effort, none of this actually satisfies them at all. Their lives have an emptiness about them. Even though they're filled with work and filled with stuff, they're empty. All their rushing around, their squirreling of this, their hoarding of that, their back-breaking effort to fill their lives with something, anything, all seems more than a little pointless. And then Isaiah, the artist, invites us to look closer still. We step nearer the picture to see the faces of these people and we realize that it's us. And the artist asks us, why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labour for that which does not satisfy? It's a picture of foolishness, but the invitation is still there, inviting us, inviting all who are outside this banquet to turn away from this pointless existence and into the banqueting hall and into a satisfying, life-fulfilling relationship with God, because that's what this banquet represents, and that's what gives us satisfaction in life. God is who we have been made by, and God is who we have been made for. We find our home in God. In God we have peace. In God we have joy. In God we have satisfaction. A life of abundance and flourishing. It begins by accepting the invitation to come to God. One of the saddest parts about these people outside the banquet is that they are part of a worldwide movement that thinks that life and the life's joy is only for the few who have the means to achieve it, the few who have wealth, who have power, and perhaps who have talent. And so all their effort is put into competing with others for the limited amount of satisfaction that's available. It's as though satisfaction and joy are commodities that can only be achieved through hoarding other commodities like wealth and power. And so you can see why they're so busy ploughing all their efforts into getting all of this stuff, believing, hoping that satisfaction is to be found in them. But then we remember the clothes of the people inside the banqueting hall, the clothes of the people enjoying the banquet. And we realize that they're there not because they can afford to be there, but because this joy, this life of flourishing that the banquet represents, can't actually be bought. It's not something that can be bought with anything, no matter how much wealth, no matter how much power you have. This joy, this life of flourishing, is a gift given completely and utterly freely. No charge, no obligations, and no strings. Isaiah invites us then to look at the centre of the picture that he's painted. And at the heart of everything that's going on in this banquet is a throne. And on it sits a king who is very reminiscent of King David, the greatest Israelite king of the Old Testament. He's the one who's laying on these rivers of joy, these rivers of abundance and fruitfulness. And the thing about this king is that in chapter 53 of his book, Isaiah has already described how he pays for us to enjoy this fullness of life by surrendering his own life. Let me read a couple of verses. He says in Isaiah 53 verse 4, surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his stripes we are healed. And so this life of peace, this life of joy, this blessed life of knowing God is completely free of charge because the King has already paid the price. And what is more, because it's free, no one gets more than anyone else. No one gets less than anyone else. And absolutely no one gets less than they need. Everything that gives life meaning, everything that really satisfies any human being, love, joy, peace, hope, these are gifts from God. And because of that, they all begin in a relationship with God. When King David's heir, Jesus, came to claim his kingdom, He made it clear that the banquet has already begun. The invitations have gone out and it's all free. Jesus, the King, has paid for us all to know the fullness of life. He has paid for us all to enjoy the richness of life that only a relationship with God can give. And he did this through his death on the cross. All we have to do is listen to the invitation to come. But what does it actually mean to come, that is? What does it mean to come to God, to come to this banquet? Well, it means to align your life, to align your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your motives, your desires, and how you relate to others, to align all your life to the life of God, which we can know, by the way, through Jesus Christ. To accept the invitation to this banquet means to listen to what the Bible tells us about Jesus and to line our life up with his own. But let me make just one final point about this. We're told in verse 2 of our reading that we need to listen persistently to this invitation to come to this free banquet, to come to this relationship with God. And the meaning of this word is to keep on listening. You see, this is something that we need to keep on doing. We can keep coming to these waters. We can keep coming to this river of milk, this river of wine. We can keep listening to the life of Jesus, and we can keep satisfying our thirst for life. What Isaiah is telling us here is that this is a way of life. It's not something that's done just the once at the beginning of our Christian journey, but we keep listening to Jesus and we keep looking to him as the source of our life, the source of our peace, the source of our joy, the source of our hope, and the source of our love.